The conference room went silent. My daughter's face drained of color as the lawyer slid a folder across the mahogany table. My son-in-law's hand froze mid-reach for his coffee cup. I watched them both, my expression unchanged, the same blank look I'd been wearing for 6 months now. "Mrs. Chen," the mediator began, "do you understand why we're all here today?" I nodded slowly, playing my part. The confused elderly woman, the burden, the problem that needed to be managed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to where this really started. To the Sunday dinner 8 months ago when everything changed. I'd made pot roast, Jennifer's favorite when she was growing up, back when we still talked about things that mattered. Back before she became too busy, too important, too successful to have real conversations with her mother. She arrived with Marcus, her husband of 12 years, both of them dressed in what I'd learned to recognize as expensive casual. The kind of clothes that cost more than my monthly grocery budget but were designed to look effortless. "Mom, the house smells amazing," Jennifer said, kissing my cheek with the efficiency of someone checking off a task. She was 42, partner at Morrison & Associates, one of the top law firms in Denver. My daughter, the one I'd worked 70-hour weeks to put through college and law school. Marcus barely looked up from his phone. Financial advisor, always on call, always chasing the next big client. I'd never warmed to him, not in all these years. But Jennifer loved him, and that had been enough. "How's work, honey?" I asked as we settled around the dining room table, the same table where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd celebrated her acceptance to law school, where her father and I had told her about his cancer diagnosis. "Swamped. This merger case is killing me. 16-hour days, weekend work. I barely see Chloe anymore." Chloe. My granddaughter, 16 now, away at private boarding school in Massachusetts. I'd paid for that too, though Jennifer didn't know it. The anonymous scholarship fund, set up through my lawyer, one of many secrets I'd been keeping. "You work too hard," I said, passing the roast. "Says the woman who used to leave for work at 5 a.m., Jennifer shot back, but there was no warmth in her laugh. Marcus set down his phone. "Actually, Maggie, there's something we need to discuss with you." I didn't miss the way Jennifer stiffened. Whatever this was, they'd planned it together. "Your finances," he continued. "Jenny and I have been talking, and we're concerned." "Concerned?" I kept my voice steady, mild, the way I'd learned to do in boardrooms when men tried to undermine me. "Mom, when's the last time you balanced your checkbook?" Jennifer's lawyer voice. Professional, detached. "When did you last review your investments?" "I manage fine." "Do you?" Marcus leaned forward. "Because we pulled your credit report. Don't look at me like that. It's for your own good. And there are some irregularities. Late payments, missed bills." This was a lie. I knew it was a lie. My bills were set to autopay, had been for years. But I also knew what this was. The opening move. "I'm 67, not dead," I said quietly. "I can handle my own affairs." The look they exchanged told me everything I needed to know. They'd already decided this conversation was just a formality. Jennifer pulled out a folder. "Papers. Always papers with lawyers. We think it might be time to consider some help. Maybe a financial advisor to handle things. Make sure you're set up for the future." "You mean give you power of attorney?" "Not us," Marcus said quickly. "A professional. Someone objective. Someone you choose." "Mom, please don't make this difficult. We're trying to help you." I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. When had she become this person? This woman who looked at her mother and saw a problem to be managed, an asset to be secured. "I don't need help," I said. "That's what everyone says before they." Jennifer stopped herself, but I heard what she didn't say. Before they lose everything. Before they embarrass themselves. Before they become a burden. The dinner ended early. They left with their papers unsigned, their mission unaccomplished. I watched their Tesla pull out of my driveway and thought about the woman I used to be. Margaret Chen, CFO of Harrington Industries, $4.2 billion in annual revenue. The woman who'd restructured 3 major corporations, who'd sat on boards, who'd been profiled in Forbes. The woman who'd retired at 55 when my husband Richard got sick because time was more valuable than stock options. Richard had been gone 12 years now, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal. I'd spent those last 6 months with him, every second, and I'd never regretted it. Not the lost promotions. Not the sacrificed partnerships. Not the whispered accusations that I was going soft or losing my edge. After he died, I'd stayed retired. I'd volunteered. I'd read. I'd learned to paint. I'd helped raise Chloe while Jennifer built her career. I'd lived simply, quietly, in the same modest 3-bedroom house we'd bought 30 years ago. Most people assumed I was living on a pension and Social Security. Jennifer certainly did. She'd never asked about my finances, never wondered how I'd paid for her school, never questioned the scholarships and grants that had made her life possible. She'd never known that I'd been putting away money since she was born, that I'd invested aggressively and wisely, that when I left Harrington, my severance and deferred compensation package had been worth $8 million. She'd never known because I'd never told her. Because I wanted her to succeed on her own merit, not because she was Margaret Chen's daughter. Because I wanted her to be hungry, to be driven, to build something herself. And she had. She'd become successful, powerful, respected. She'd also become someone who looked at her mother and saw dollar signs. The next few months followed a pattern. Weekly phone calls, always with the same theme. Was I eating properly? Taking my medications? Keeping track of my appointments? Each question a little more pointed, a little more accusatory. Then came the day Jennifer showed up unannounced. "Mom, we need to talk. Can I come in?" She didn't wait for an answer, brushing past me into the living room. Marcus followed, carrying a briefcase. "We've been doing some research," Jennifer began, settling onto the sofa like she was addressing a client. "And we think you might be showing signs of cognitive decline." The words hung in the air between us. "Cognitive decline," I repeated. "Early-stage dementia, possibly." "You've been forgetful, confused. Last week you called me at 2 a.m., thinking it was the afternoon." That had been deliberate. A test to see how far they'd take this. Apparently, pretty far. "I've also been paying attention to your spending," Marcus added, opening his briefcase. "Unusual purchases, large cash withdrawals. Classic signs of financial exploitation. Someone might be taking advantage of you." "Who would be taking advantage of me?" "That's what we need to figure out. But first, we need to protect you. Protect your assets." Jennifer pulled out more papers. I was beginning to hate papers. "We've scheduled an evaluation with Dr. Patterson. He's a geriatric psychiatrist, very well regarded. He'll assess your cognitive function, and then we can proceed from there." "Proceed to what?" "To establishing a conservatorship. Temporarily, just until we're sure you're okay." "And if I refuse?" The look on Jennifer's face broke something inside me. Pity mixed with determination. The look of someone who'd already made up their mind, who was just going through the motions of pretending I had a choice. "Then we'll have to file with the court. Force the evaluation. It won't look good, Mom. Fighting us on this just proves you're not thinking clearly." After they left, I sat in my empty house and cried for the first time in years. Not for myself, but for the daughter I'd lost somewhere along the way. Then I dried my eyes, made a phone call, and went to war. The evaluation with Dr. Patterson was a joke. He was competent enough, I suppose, but the questions were designed for someone checking out of reality, not someone playing a role. "What year is it? Who's the president?" Count backward from 100 by sevens. I missed a few. Intentionally. Just enough to raise flags without being obvious. "Mrs. Chen shows some concerning signs," he told Jennifer and Marcus in his office afterward, while I sat there like a child waiting for her report card. "Short-term memory issues. Difficulty with executive function. I'd recommend a more comprehensive evaluation, but in the meantime, she should not be managing her own finances." Jennifer looked relieved. Marcus looked triumphant. I looked confused and a little scared. Oscar-worthy, if I do say so myself. The court filing came 2 weeks later, a petition for conservatorship, citing my age, my cognitive decline, my inability to manage my affairs. They'd even included statements from Dr. Patterson and a financial advisor who'd analyzed my accounts and found concerning irregularities. The irregularities were cash withdrawals I'd made specifically to create a paper trail, the kind of thing a confused elderly person might do, or the kind of thing a very sharp CFO might do to build a case. I hired a lawyer. Not one of Jennifer's colleagues. Not someone from her firm's network. I went 3 states over, to a woman named Sarah Chen, no relation, who specialized in elder law and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. "They're going to paint you as incompetent," Sarah told me in our first meeting, confused, unable to make decisions. "The burden of proof is on us to show otherwise." "I know. Do you have documentation? Financial records? Proof of competency?" "I have everything." She raised an eyebrow. "Everything?" "Everything." The first court hearing was set for a Thursday morning in October. I dressed carefully. Comfortable shoes, loose-fitting slacks, a cardigan that had seen better days. I wanted to look like what they expected, a confused old woman who needed protecting. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Fewer people, more intimate. Jennifer and Marcus sat with their lawyer, a sharp-looking man in his 50s named Richard Gow. They'd gone all out, clearly. I sat with Sarah, who'd coached me extensively on my role. Say little, look confused when appropriate, let her do the talking. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. Late 50s, intelligent eyes, reputation for being thorough. I'd done my research. Gow presented their case methodically. Dr. Patterson's evaluation, financial records showing my erratic behavior. Testimony from neighbors who'd noticed me wandering and seeming lost. The wandering had been morning walks. The seeming lost had been me enjoying the sunrise. But in his telling, it became evidence of decline. Jennifer testified, her voice steady and professional. "Your Honor, I love my mother. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I can't stand by and watch her destroy everything she's worked for. She's not herself anymore. She needs help, even if she doesn't realize it." She sounded so convincing, so concerned, maybe she even believed it. Marcus testified about the financial concerns, missing payments that weren't actually missing, suspicious transactions that had perfectly reasonable explanations. But presented correctly, to the right audience, it painted a picture of someone losing control. Then it was Sarah's turn. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Mrs. Margaret Chen to the stand." I shuffled up, playing my part, took my time sitting down, adjusted my glasses, looked around the courtroom with mild confusion. "Mrs. Chen," Sarah began gently. "How old are you?" 67. "And you live alone?" "Yes. In the house my husband and I bought 30 years ago." "Tell me about your husband." I let my voice waver, just slightly. "Richard. He passed away 12 years ago, cancer." "I'm sorry for your loss. What did you do for work, Mrs. Chen?" "I was an accountant." Jennifer shifted in her seat. We'd never really talked about my career in specific terms. She knew I'd worked in finance. She didn't know the details. "Just an accountant?" Sarah pressed. "I worked my way up. Different companies over the years. Can you name some of those companies?" "Morrison Financial, Stedman Brothers, Harrington Industries." "And what was your position at Harrington Industries when you retired?" I paused, looking confused. I don't quite remember the exact title." Jennifer exchanged a glance with Marcus. "See?" her face said. "She can't even remember." "That's okay," Sarah said kindly. "Let me help you. Were you Chief Financial Officer of Harrington Industries from 2005 to 2013? The room went very still. "Yes," I said quietly. "Yes, I was." "And during your tenure, what was Harrington's annual revenue?" "It grew from $2.1 billion to $4.2 billion. You remember those numbers exactly?" "Yes." "But you can't remember your job title?" I looked at Jennifer. Let her see the woman I'd been hiding. "I remember everything, honey. I just wanted to see how far you'd go." The color drained from her face. Sarah pulled out a folder. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Mrs. Chen's complete financial records, bank statements, investment portfolios, tax returns for the past 15 years. You'll note that everything is meticulously organized, all payments are current, and her net worth is approximately $12.4 million. You could have heard a pin drop. The late payments Mr. Gow referenced were deliberate tests to see if her daughter and son-in-law were monitoring her accounts without permission. The cash withdrawals were documented donations to charity, all properly receipted. The confusion was a performance to see exactly what they were after. Judge Morrison leaned forward, studying me with new interest. "Mrs. Chen, are you telling this court that you've been pretending to have dementia?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Why?" "Because I needed to know the truth. I needed to know if my daughter was trying to help me or trying to help herself. Mom Jennifer started to stand, but her lawyer pulled her back down. Sarah wasn't done. Your Honor, I'd also like to submit evidence that Mr. Marcus Webb, the petitioner's husband, has been systematically defrauding his clients for the past 3 years. Mrs. Chen, using her financial expertise, identified the pattern 6 months ago when he made the mistake of trying to manage some of her accounts. She pulled out another folder, thicker this time. This contains documentation of 18 cases of elder financial abuse. Mr. Webb targets wealthy seniors, gains their trust, and slowly siphons off their assets. He was in the process of doing this to his own mother-in-law when she noticed and began investigating. Marcus was white as a sheet now. Jennifer looked like she might be sick. Mrs. Chen spent the last 6 months gathering evidence while pretending to be the perfect victim. She even created fake accounts and let him steal from them, all while documenting everything. Judge Morrison's expression had gone from curious to furious. Mr. Webb, is this true? Marcus's lawyer was whispering urgently in his ear, smart enough to know this had just gone from a simple conservatorship hearing to potential criminal charges. I'd like to request a recess, Your Honor. Denied. Answer the question. I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right. Of course you would. Judge Morrison turned back to me. Mrs. Chen, do you have anything else to say? I looked at Jennifer. Really looked at her. My daughter, who I'd raised to be strong, to be smart, to be ethical. My daughter, who'd somehow become someone I didn't recognize. I want to say that I loved her father more than life itself. And when he got sick, I gave up everything to be with him. My career, my reputation, my future. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some things matter more than success, more than money, more than looking good on paper. Tears were streaming down Jennifer's face now. I stayed quiet after he died. I lived small. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to see if you could make it on your own. If you could be the person I raised you to be, without my money, my connections, my name opening doors. Mom, please. You did make it. You became successful, powerful, respected. I was so proud of you. But somewhere along the way, you forgot where you came from. You forgot what matters. You looked at your mother and saw an opportunity. I thought I was helping you. Did you? I kept my voice soft, because the truth was sharp enough. Or did you think I was too stupid, too old, too diminished to notice what Marcus was doing? Did you even ask yourself why a man who supposedly loves you would be so eager to control your mother's money? Jennifer looked at Marcus, and I watched realization dawn. All those conversations about my finances, all his concern, all his pushing. Oh God, she whispered. Oh God, what have I done? Judge Morrison cleared her throat. I'm dismissing this petition immediately. Mrs. Chen clearly has full capacity to manage her own affairs. Better capacity than most people I see in this courtroom, frankly. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Webb, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation. You should get yourself a good criminal lawyer. She turned to Jennifer. Miss Webb, I'm not sure what role you played in your husband's schemes, but I suggest you consider very carefully whether this marriage is worth your career and your freedom. The gavel came down. It was over. In the hallway outside, Jennifer caught up to me. Mom, please. Can we talk? What is there to say? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought. I don't even know what I thought. He told me you were declining, that we needed to act quickly, that he could help protect you. I was working so much, I barely noticed. You barely noticed that your husband was a con artist? I barely noticed anything. Do you know what my life is like? 16-hour days, pressure from the partners, clients demanding everything. I was drowning, and he was there, and he seemed to have all the answers. And one of those answers was stealing from your mother? She crumpled against the wall. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. The conservatorship. I really thought it was for your protection. I thought you were sick. And you didn't think to ask me? To have a real conversation instead of ambushing me with evaluations and court papers? I was scared. You were acting so strange, and he kept saying we needed to move fast before you did something dangerous. I studied my daughter's face. 30 years of memories. Birthday parties and school plays and late-night talks about boys and dreams and life. The little girl who'd climbed into my lap when she was sad. The teenager who'd fought with me about curfews. The young woman who'd called me crying when she got her first case. When had we stopped talking? When had she stopped trusting me? "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you divorce him before his criminal case destroys your career. Now you figure out who you are without him. Now you decide if you want to be the kind of person who looks at her mother and sees a mark, or the kind of person I raised you to be. And us?" I took a breath. "That depends on you, Jennifer. I can forgive a lot. I've lived a long life, made my share of mistakes. But you have to do the work. You have to figure out how you got here." "I will. I promise I will." "Good." I turned to leave, then stopped. "And Jennifer? Call your daughter. Actually talk to her. Don't let her spend the next 20 years wondering why her mother was too busy for her." I walked away from the courthouse alone. Sarah had offered to stay with me, to go over the next steps in Marcus's prosecution, but I'd declined. I needed space to think, to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Grandma, Mom just called crying and told me everything. Are you okay? Can I come home this weekend?" I smiled despite everything. My granddaughter, 16 years old and already more emotionally intelligent than her mother. We'd been close, the two of us, during those early years when I'd helped raise her. Before boarding school, before distance made it easier not to deal with a family that was falling apart. I texted back, "I'm fine, sweetheart. Come home. I'll make pot roast." That night, alone in my house, I pulled out the photo albums. Pictures of Jennifer as a child, as a teen, as a young woman. Her father, at every stage, proud and beaming. The two of them had been so close. He'd adored her, seen so much of himself in her drive and determination. What would Richard think of what she'd become? What would he think of what I'd done? I'd spent 6 months pretending to decline, gathering evidence, setting a trap. Part of me had hoped Jennifer would notice, would pull back, would realize something was wrong. That hope had kept me going through the humiliating doctor's appointments, the patronizing conversations, the feeling of being diminished and dismissed. But a darker part of me had known she wouldn't notice because she didn't want to see, because seeing would mean admitting that her perfect life, her perfect marriage, her perfect career were built on sand. The doorbell rang 3 days later. Jennifer stood on my porch, eyes red, exhaustion carved into every line of her face. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where this had all started. She'd brought papers, divorce papers this time, already filed. "He's been arrested," she said. "Federal charges, wire fraud, elder abuse. His lawyer says he could get 20 years. And you?" They questioned me for 6 hours. I gave them everything, every conversation, every document he showed me, every lie I believed. "My firm put me on administrative leave while they investigate whether I knew anything." "Did you?" "No." She met my eyes. "I swear to you, Mom, I had no idea what he was doing. I was stupid. I was blind. I was so focused on myself that I didn't see what was happening in my own life. But I wasn't part of it." I believed her. Maybe I was being naive. Maybe a smarter woman would have doubted. But I looked at my daughter and I saw the truth. She'd been used, manipulated, pointed at me like a weapon. "What will you do now?" I asked. "I don't know. The firm might fire me. Even if they don't, my reputation is destroyed." Jennifer Webb, the lawyer who tried to declare her own mother incompetent while her husband robbed her, it's already in the papers. "So you'll start over. At 42? With a scandal following me?" "I started over at 55 when your father got sick. It's never too late to become who you're meant to be." She started crying then, real tears, not the pretty kind you see in movies. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for all of it. For not seeing what he was, for not being there for you, for looking at you like you were a problem instead of a person. For forgetting that you're the strongest, smartest woman I've ever known." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I know, baby. I know. How do I fix this? You already started. You left him. You told the truth. Now you keep going. What if I can't? What if I'm too broken?" "You're not broken. You're dented. There's a difference." I squeezed her hand. Your father and I, we didn't raise you to be perfect. We raised you to be resilient, to get back up, to learn from mistakes. I've made so many mistakes. Then you'll learn a lot." We sat there for a long time, holding hands across the table, two women who'd lost their way and were trying to find their way back to each other. 3 months later, Jennifer filed for divorce. Marcus was denied bail after prosecutors demonstrated he was a flight risk. His trial was set for the following spring, and he was facing 43 counts of fraud and elder abuse. Jennifer resigned from her firm before they could fire her. She sold the house, the Tesla, the designer clothes. She took a job at Legal Aid, making a third of what she'd earned before, working with the kind of clients she used to look down on. Chloe came home from boarding school, not permanently. She loved her school, her friends, her life there, but more often, weekly phone calls, monthly visits, real conversations about real things. And me? I went back to my quiet life, my painting, my volunteering, my small house with its garden and its memories. But I also did something I hadn't done in years. I called up some old colleagues from Harrington, asked about consulting opportunities, started looking at companies that needed help restructuring their finances. Turns out, being CFO is like riding a bike. You never really forget. 6 months after the hearing, Jennifer and I had dinner, not at my house this time, at a small Italian place downtown, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. "I got a case today," she said over pasta. An elderly woman whose son was stealing her pension checks. "She's scared, alone, doesn't know where to turn. Are you going to help her?" I already started the paperwork. It made me think of you, of what could have happened if you hadn't been smart enough to protect yourself. "It made me think of your father," I admitted. "When he got sick, he made me promise something. He said, 'Don't let anyone make you small, not even our daughter.' I didn't understand what he meant then, but you do now." Yes, he knew what success could do to a person. How easy it is to start seeing people as assets or liabilities instead of just people. Jennifer set down her fork. "I have a confession. When you revealed everything in court, there was a part of me, a tiny, terrible part, that was relieved." Relieved? That you were still you. That I hadn't actually destroyed the smartest, strongest person I knew. That maybe I could learn to be like you again. "You don't need to be like me, honey. You need to be like you. The best version of you. I don't even know who that is anymore. Then we'll figure it out together." She smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. Together, I'd like that. A year after the trial, Marcus was sentenced to 23 years in federal prison. Jennifer's divorce was finalized. Her legal career was rebuilding slowly. She'd never be a partner at a white shoe firm again, but she'd found something better. Purpose. Chloe graduated from boarding school with honors and got into Yale, her first choice. We all went to her graduation, Jennifer, me, and a few close friends. No Marcus, of course. He'd tried to call Chloe from prison a few times, but she'd refused to take his calls. "He's not my family," she'd told me. "You and Mom are my family. The rest is just noise." Smart girl, my granddaughter. The last time I spoke publicly about what happened was at a senior center event where I'd been asked to talk about financial fraud. The room was full of people my age and older, all of them worried about being victims, about being seen as weak or confused or easy marks. "I want to tell you something," I said to them. "Getting older doesn't mean getting stupid. It doesn't mean you're less capable, less sharp, less valuable. Anyone who tells you otherwise is either ignorant or trying to take advantage of you." A woman in the front row raised her hand. "But what if it's your family? What if it's people who say they love you?" Then you make a choice. You can let them diminish you, or you can stand up and show them who you really are. It won't be easy. It might cost you relationships. But your dignity, your autonomy, your right to make your own choices, those are worth fighting for. After the talk, dozens of people came up to share their stories. Children who'd taken over their finances without asking, grandchildren who'd isolated them from friends, spouses who'd used age as an excuse for control. I listened to each one, gave advice where I could, connected people with resources, and I thought about Jennifer, about how close we'd come to losing each other permanently. But we hadn't lost each other. We'd found our way back. That's the thing about family. It's complicated. It's messy. It breaks and bends and sometimes shatters into pieces. But if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to be honest and vulnerable and real, you can put it back together. It won't look the same. It might be stronger or weaker or just different, but it's yours. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 68 years old now. I'm a mother, a grandmother, a former CFO, a current consultant, and a survivor of financial elder abuse. I'm also proof that underestimating someone based on age is the biggest mistake you can make. Because we didn't get this old by being stupid. We got this old by being smart, by adapting, by surviving things that would have broken lesser people. And we're not done yet, not by a long shot.